Hey, and welcome back. I'm Rob, aka ShipDriver71, and today we will continue where we left off last week and depart ORBX's Cloverdale Municipal Airport, bound for ORBX's Rohnerville in Fortuna, California, about 100 miles north. Although easy enough to land on, I ended up taking up most of the runway length of Cloverdale to take off in the 310R, but in the end it was no sweat. As we depart Cloverdale, we depart the northern end of the Russian River Valley, home of some of my favorite California wines. The flight north was actually quite turbulent at 4,000 feet, and the autopilot really got a workout trying to keep the aircraft going in the right direction. There was a fairly strong sea breeze coming in from the Pacific Ocean to the west, so the 310R was really being pushed at from the side. When I approached a ridge, on the other side of which is the Eel River, I disconnected the autopilot and banked to the right to come down to the Eel River and follow the river downstream towards the airport. One odd thing, though, about the airport is that it only has VASI lights for runway 11 and no visual glide slope aids for runway 29. I say odd because I would think winds would typically be coming off of the ocean, making runway 29 the more commonly used direction. The approach is more clear in terms of terrain and obstacles for runway 11 though, with runway 29 being constrained by the Van Dusen River Valley. Because there is a ridge between the Eel and the Van Dusen rivers, the Van Dusen River makes a better valley to follow into the airport for runway 29. Because of the lack of lights for runway 29, when I first scouted the area, I completely missed the airport, especially because visibility was only a few miles at the time, until I turned around in exasperation and saw the runway 11 VASI lights, as if they were saying, "You've gone too far." This time, once again, I somewhat misjudged the airport location, not having been here in a while, and also not being able to see it because in that direction there are no lights. And when I finally did spot it, I was too close unless I wanted to make an aircraft carrier style landing. So I turned up the Van Dusen River Valley and then made a U-turn to come back towards the airport. As it was still a fairly steep approach because of the confines of the valley, although I probably could have stretched it out further. Luckily, winds were almost directly down the runway with next to no crosswind, making for a pretty steady approach. The small town of Fortuna, California, populated by about 12,000 people, is a far cry from Cloverdale. What a difference 100 miles makes. Instead of vineyards and a peripheral attachment to the Bay Area, arriving in Fortuna is to enter redwood country, where the landscape starts looking more like Oregon than what most people think of California. In fact, in aviation terms, you're actually under Seattle Center when you're flying up by Rohnerville. Some nice add-ons at the ORBX rendition of the airport are a vintage biplane parked near the fuel spot, and the Cal Fire Station at the eastern end of the airfield. There is some of what ORBX calls creature flow, with a butterfly flapping around the north hangars, and a squirrel near the Chevron truck midfield. Across the fence from the Cal Fire Station is some cows in the pasture, but they appeared static, which is unfortunate. I would have preferred them moving around than a squirrel or a butterfly. Anyways, much like Cloverdale, although with a different sort of character to it, this does sort of exemplify a lot of what is great about ORBX airports, especially if you're flying GA aircraft. Well, I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If so, please give it a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and make sure to click that notification bell icon, because subscribing doesn't mean notifications anymore. And we'll see you next time.